We're here live from the show floor with Kaz Hirai, President and CEO of Sony. Kaz, thank you very much for taking a little bit of time for us. Now, you've got a lot of products on display in this massive, beautiful booth. I want to start with the Xperia Z. It's the new Android smartphone that you've launched. Yes. It's a beautiful device. What do you think is going to set it apart from the rest of the Android devices out there?
I actually have the product right here with me.
Wow, how convenient is that?
You know, Sony is really known for its image technology in terms of Bravia television sets, and what we've done is we've actually packed a lot of the Bravia technology right into the Xperia Z. So you're getting one of the highest resolution picture quality of any smartphone out there.
I'm talking 1080p display, right? Full HD.
Absolutely. And also, we're probably also very famous for image sensor technology as well. And the Xperia Z has a 13 megapixel Exmor image sensor installed within this very thin form factor as well. So some great picture and video taking qualities. And also obviously all the signature apps from Sony, as well as connectivity to our network services. And it's also waterproof as well. So it's a fantastic
product. That's interesting. We see a lot of phones released in Japan that are waterproof, but it's pretty rare that they maintain that functionality here in the US. Do you think that's something that'll catch on in the US market?
I think that you know, we always talk about blogging in the bathtub. I
As
think
I've been
that
known to do
there are a lot of use cases where you're not going to dive into something with your phone, but you know, in the rain, for example, or again, you know, in the bathtub, there are some uses where that's going to come in handy, I think.
Now, it is a thin phone, as you mentioned, but it's also a large phone at 5 inches. Is 5 inches, though, becoming kind of the new normal? Android phones are growing and growing and growing. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that you know, it's important for us to make sure that we have a variety of different screen sizes for different uses. Some consumers have larger hands, some have smaller hands. So you know, there's a lot of talk about 5-inch, but you know, there should be models that have a smaller screen as well.
And that's the Xperia Z. You're running out of letters. Where are you going to go from there?
We could probably combine the Z and the L, or you know, other letters as well. So
all right, that's good.
We should be fine with that.
Now, the other big story here, of course, is 4K TV and OLED TVs, and you guys are combining the two here on the show floor. You've got a beautiful 4K TV, and OLED, amazing quality, looks fantastic, and 4K is the big story this year. How long do you think it'll be before 4K is really a powerhouse on the consumer level, like HD TV has become now?
Well, I think that this is an evolutionary process. Just like, for example, it took years for transition from color television, from black and white, to HD, for example. And you know, obviously we're still in the transition with a lot of content creators creating 3D content as well. So I think it's an evolutionary process that you know, all the consumer manufacturers, including Sony, need to be you know, aggressively pursuing by making sure that we're presenting, you know, the attributes and the benefits of 4K to all our customers.
And of course the big question is content at this point. There are really no standard distribution methods for consumers to get this stuff. What is Sony doing to help get that content into the hands of consumers?
Well, as we launched the 84-inch 4K LED TV last year, what we did was we also provided all of our customers with a server that had Sony Pictures Entertainment content that's preloaded in native 4K, so that they're able to readily access 4K content.
And have their friends over and show them and
exactly.
Really wow them, right?
As we talked about yesterday at our press conference, we're going to be providing the 65 and the 55-inch 4K televisions with a distribution service, so that they are able to also access native 4K content from Sony Pictures and other content providers as well. So that's one aspect. The other important thing that I think that, you know, and you should definitely take a look if you haven't yet, is the upscaling technology that we've actually brought into these televisions, where if the consumers have conventional HD-based Blu-ray discs, our televisions will upscale that to 4K. And it really is a truly stunning upscale technology that you should definitely take a look at, because there's truly a difference in between HD and upscaled 4K.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in these large displays. 1080p was great when a big TV was 32 inches, but just like smartphones are getting bigger, TVs are getting bigger too, and now we need more pixels. Do you think that network connections in the US are good enough to handle digital distribution of 4K content?
Well, I think that you know, that really depends on the broadband speeds that are available for all of our customers. But you know, as we've done and continue to do with the PlayStation Network, which can be games of upwards of 50 gigabytes. It does take a little while to download, so it's usually something that you do while you're asleep or you're gone during the day. So it does take a little time. So that's something that again depends on the broadband speed. The other thing I think we need to do as an industry is to make sure that if we all agree collectively that a disc-based medium is also something that's necessary to deliver 4K content to our customers, then we need to talk about a standard format as well.
And you, of course, were a leader in getting the Blu-ray standard pushed through, which became the de facto standard for 1080p content. And presumably that's something that you could look to build upon to distribute 4K content as well?
Well, I think that's something that we need to discuss as an industry and decide which direction we want to proceed into.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about gaming.
Sure.
You mentioned gaming, and we're seeing a big shift toward mobile gaming amongst consumers. Sony had an early step in trying to get ahead of that with some older PlayStation games made available on Android devices. There hasn't been a lot of momentum on that, though. Is that something that you'll be pushing more towards?
Yeah, that was actually the beginning or first step into what we are calling the PlayStation Mobile Initiative, and certainly making the classic PS1 games available on Android devices was our first step. We've gotten that initiative now to a point where we are actually providing development kits to developers, so that they were able to actually produce new games that are running on Android devices through our PlayStation Mobile Initiative. So that's something that's growing as well, and it's going to be a very important aspect or a part of our business going forward, in addition to the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita.
And you're of course launching the Xperia Z, which has incredible performance and rivaling perhaps the PlayStation Vita in some ways. Do you see that those becoming the portable gaming systems of the future?
Well, I think it's really up to the consumers to make that choice. Obviously, the Xperia Z is a great device to play casual games on, but at the same time, I think the PlayStation Vita is a device that's specifically designed for gaming with intuitive controls, buttons, for that intricate gameplay. So I think the two really cater to a different audience. And the important thing is that from a PlayStation perspective, that we play in both of those areas.
Absolutely. Now, PlayStation, of course, is a very important brand, and many would recognize your face as the face of talking about PlayStation at E3. I myself have seen you many times at E3 speaking about PlayStation 2 and 3 and so on. The PlayStation 2, of course, just recently ended production after a very long, very, very successful run. What are your thoughts on the kind of the termination of the PlayStation 2?
Well, I think when we launched the PS2, we also talked about embarking on a 10-year product life cycle, and I think a lot of people back then were skeptical about the longevity of our platforms.
Absolutely.
But we've actually proven that with the original PlayStation. Way back when, the PS2 had actually a life cycle that's more than 10 years, so it's been a great business for us, for Sony. But perhaps more importantly, I think the PS2 was a very important platform in the growth of the video game industry as a whole, and so we're very proud of the platform.
And that console also helped to usher in this idea of the video game console not just being a video game console, but that also a lot of people bought that because at the time it was also a really good DVD player.
Yes, indeed.
So that really set us along this path now where we see home consoles becoming much more of a home entertainment system rather than just a video game system. And of course, you built on that with the PlayStation 3 quite successfully as well.
Right.
Now, is that a trend that will continue as we look into perhaps the next generation of gaming?
Well, I think it's a little too early to talk about next generation consoles because again, we talk about a 10-year life cycle for the PlayStation 3 as well. So there still is a lot to do with the PlayStation 3, and as you probably know, we recently announced a slimmed-down version.
Yes, absolutely.
That's been well accepted by fans around the world. So we have a lot of exciting things planned for PS3.
Anything to do with Gaikai, perhaps?
Well, that's something that obviously, again, is a trend in video gaming where streaming gaming will become a part of that experience, and we want to make sure that we have the technologies in-house to be able to provide that kind of cutting-edge experience to our customers, as more and more customers move to streaming gaming.
Now, we talked about 4K, of course, and 4K displays here are fantastic, and the distribution of 4K is going to be a bit of a challenge for a little while, but we're also seeing the ability for consumers to create their own 4K content. You're launching a 4K capable camcorder here.
We have a 4K camcorder, yes, that we talked about.
And we also saw last night Qualcomm announced a 4K capable chipset, which will be able to encode and decode 4K content. So it seems like we're not that far away from being able to record 4K footage right on your smartphone.
Well, I think it's important that whether it's on the smartphone or perhaps initially through camcorders, that we are able to have an ecosystem where consumers can enjoy pre-recorded content from the motion picture studios, but at the same time be able to create their own content. And we certainly did that with 3D, where we have a lineup of 3D camcorders, and certainly want to make sure that if we're talking about 4K, that we are providing that opportunity for customers as well to really get into that immersive experience in creating content in 4K.
Now, how big of a memory card am I going to have to get to start recording 4K footage of my dogs running around? Probably pretty large, right? This is big footage we're talking about.
Yeah.
So now, of course, you've got a lot of great stuff here. Is there anything else in the show floor that you're excited to see here at CES?
Well, I think one of the important things that we've been talking about is really the user experience. As core to that strategy is the OneTouch. So really having the near-field communications be the basis for a lot of our devices, predominantly mobile devices, really being able to speak to each other and connect with each other very easily, so that the consumers aren't having to worry about whether the Bluetooth is on or you got to search for devices. All you need to do is really take an Xperia Z or take a portable device, tap it to a Sony OneTouch enabled device like a portable speaker, a dock, and just enjoy music. Or really just take Xperia Z and you're playing a movie and then really just touch it and then it's on the screen on your Bravia. Those kinds of things I think is a very unique and very important user experience, especially in this day and age when everything seems to be so easy, but it really isn't. So we want to make technology as simple as possible, and it's not about having to spend time having to connect product. It's about spending time to enjoy content.
Yeah, if there's a trend beyond 4K, it's definitely convergence of devices we're seeing at CES, which I think is great too. There have been all these great individual products that have been built individually. Now everyone's trying to bring them together more easily, which is fantastic. And Sony, of course, it has a presence in a lot of different realms, and you've been playing a big part in trying to bring them together. Has that been an easy battle to fight? Have the divisions of Sony been playing together under your reign in the past year?
Well, I think with Sony Electronics, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Sony Music Entertainment, Sony Computer Entertainment, we are working a lot closer together.
Great.
We share a lot of information on future products and make sure that wherever possible we're working together. The collaboration between Sony Pictures and Electronics in distributing 4K content is a prime example of that.
Yeah, that gives you
something
a big leg
that
up.
our competitors just do not have the ability to do.
All right, Kaz. Well, thanks very much for taking some time out from your busy show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And for letting us come into your beautiful booth here. And again, we're live from CES 2013 at Engadget.